And we are live. So I was trying to go ahead and set up the PS5 stream. Nothing is happening yet. So I just literally just went ahead and set up a reminder. What is up, everybody? What's up, Eddie Land? What is up, Lucky the Dragon? Thanks for joining in. So yeah, I am sitting here waiting to set everything up. Hopefully everything starts working soon. Let me know if there's any issues with audio or video in the comments below. But yeah, no, I'm definitely just eagerly waiting to see what will happen. I obviously have some hopes and dreams that can go ahead and get things ready. Xbox for the win. Robbie, okay. What's up, Daniel? How is it going? It is going. What's up, Sven? Howdy, Lucky the Dragon. Honestly, I'm just going to get this right out of the way. I don't care about Xbox or PS5 or the console wars. I've been gaming lately a lot on PC and Switch. Now that doesn't mean that I'm not, akin towards Sony's. Thank you, Anya. I appreciate that. What's up, Canon? I want the PS5 to be successful. I want the Xbox to be successful. Both of them. I mean, guys, it's a great time to be gamers. What's up, Adrian? It is a hell of a good time to be a gamer right now. So I am definitely stoked to see what they're going to bring to the table. Hopefully, we see this presentation go live shortly, because I am trying to make sure that everything is set up for you guys more than anything else. But no, I mean, I hope that they actually give us more information. I do not expect to see a price point today, because I have a strong suspicion that Sony's going to do essentially what they did last year. They're going to pretty much wait until the competition is like, hey, this is how much it's going to cost, and they're going to try to undercut them any way that they can to gain some sort of edge. In regards to power and whatnot, we will see. Callum, what is up? $47.99. I mean, is that in pounds that you're saying, Alex Omega, or US dollars? Because I'm definitely, I don't know. How long do we have to wait? I mean, technically, it's supposed to be 7 minutes, if I'm honest with you. So we shall see. Nothing is popping up over here. Oh, US dollars? I mean, if that's the case, Alex Omega, that would be a sweet spot. I mean, I was kind of expecting $49.99, or excuse me, $499.99, but it is what it is, man. Callum, have fun at work, by the way. Interested to see what it's going to look like. Yes, I want to see what this is going to look like. Is it going to look? I doubt that it's going to look like the dev kits. Like, if you look back at PS3, PS2, even the PS1, the dev kits looked nothing like the way that they looked when they were released to the public. So we'll see what happens. Xbox Series X will be more powerful, but $499 PS5. I mean, Jack purchase. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know if you saw the article that came out. I believe it was Bloomberg that came out with kind of like a breakdown and estimation, saying that it's $459, if I remember correctly, in regards to how much it's going to cost to build it. And PS5, Sony, they're trying to work really hard to keep that price as low as possible. So I honestly have no idea what to expect. Coming for Final Fantasy VII. I mean, I would love for Final Fantasy VII, all of them, to come out on PS5. Hopefully, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Xbox went ahead and released some information saying that Xbox One and Xbox One X, One S, those games get slight little like upgrades. I want Sony to do something like that. Like, being able to play PS4 games on PS5 would be great if there's kind of like just a little graphical just push. That's me. I think Xbox One. Yeah, I agree, Daniel. 450 would be. I mean, they're gonna sell it at a loss. That's the thing. Mario for PS5, you win. Comment of the day. Oh man. But no, I definitely want to be able to go ahead and get that set up, man. I want to be able to pretty much, see what the PS5 is going to have and showcase it. They'll only show the PS5 controller. I doubt they'll show the console. I mean, I don't know. I'm totally going to destroy your name, but I'm just going to say Putra. There's no E3. they decided not to go to the conference. And in previous gens, like with the PS4 launch, they showed the controller beforehand around this time of year. And then at E3, they went ahead and they showed the actual console and everything, and they showed it off. But there's no E3. What are the odds that they're just gonna? I mean, why would they drag it out? The only information that I don't foresee being shown is price. That's literally it. What is up, Onyx? I hope you're feeling a little bit better, man. That's for sure. If this is your first time here, guys, smash that like button because YouTube. That's all I'm gonna say in regards to that. And if you haven't subbed, sub because we like it when people sub. That's for sure. Now, 3 minutes until we go live, guys, and I am not seeing anything on my end. I'm just gonna go ahead and double check and make sure that there is nothing that I am not missing because. Even on YouTube's homepage, it's just like, well, set the reminder, nothing else. So hopefully we get something soon because I'm not getting anything on my end. Onyx actually sent me an impression of him saying, "Oh my God, Panzer Dragoon," and when we were, talking Sabrina Lean. Hello. I cannot wait for the PS5 either. State of Play should be interesting this year. Alex May, I agree with you. They also have to show the box at this point. They got tracked for... Nico with the humor. I love it, man. I appreciate your humor. Day in and day out, man. But no, we'll see. T-minus 2 minutes, man. If we see Knack 3, that's going to be like the meme of the century, if I do say so myself. I do need to get an Onyx soundboard. Onyx, I'm gonna need you to record some sound bits, and we'll go ahead and like put it into the stream deck, and we'll go ahead and just have like sound bits going off. I was thinking about getting my Pikachu and like pasting Onyx's face on it, so he could participate. I agree, Anya, and like that's the thing. Like when it comes to games that are coming out. Since technically there isn't an E3 going on, that doesn't mean that those announcements wouldn't happen around that time. And that's what I was talking about during the weekly resume. I was like, I like the fact that it's there just because it's easy to kind of like get everything in one location and kind of have that going. Okay, this is set to start in 60 seconds, but there is absolutely nothing going on. So I'm curious what the heck is going on. You're getting a thumbs down from me, PlayStation. I'm kidding, guys. I'm kidding. I'm just waiting. Playing the waiting game. They've just done a larger direct. I guess. I hope. I hope so, Onyx, because I'm just like, dude, what the heck, man? Unless they're doing, well, yeah, I guess that would work that way. Kind of like a direct style premiere and whatnot. It's just, I kind of want to like set it up on my end, Onyx. You know how it is here. You know how it is to set these things up. So we'll see. I didn't even know this was coming out today. Dude, I found out yesterday via a tweet. They tweeted that more information on the PlayStation blog. So, oh, here we go. It says that it's premiere will begin shortly. Come on. I want to know. I want it now. Oh, man. This is like nerve-wracking, guys. I hope that like I have the Xbox Series X specs pulled up in my browser because I want to make sure that like I kind of like compare everything. I have a little tiny notepad that's here to jot down notes as everything is going. I want to do this, man. I want this to start now. That would be nice, to say the least. There will always be PS4 games. Got to measure those flops. Damn straight, Nico. You know what I'm talking about. We got to make sure that this isn't a flop. Oh, look. Yeah, I clicked the bell icon on your channel. Thanks. I appreciate that, Alex. Oh, man. But no, oh, wait. What? Okay. Okay, what is going on? Premiere in progress. Start. Okay. I'm just gonna like refresh things on my side because that is not. Oh, there we go. All right. I don't know if you guys can hear the music yet or not. but that is definitely starting. Nice chill music. Okay. So we have like a minute and 39 seconds, so let's just go ahead and get that set up. So we shall see what happens in regards to that. Just in time. When's this Costa? Yeah, man, dude. We all need some good news. That is some loud music. Give me a sec. I'm gonna just put that down for a second because holy guacamole, that is really loud. Sorry, headphone users. Lucky the Dragon, stay awake. I know you can't drink coffee, but come on. That is YouTube for you guys. Like, YouTube is always notoriously very, very, very loud when it comes to everything. Anya, yeah, I'm right there with you. The fact that like CD Projekt Red was like, yeah, you can go ahead and play on whichever console you want. It's just going to be essentially, you know, the best version for said console. I want that. Any game announcement, Robbie? None that I'm aware of. The Resident Evil 3 remake demo has hit New Zealand's PSN store and I think Japan's. And in Japan, you can get Monster Hunter World for free on PlayStation Plus. Okay, here we go. So it is starting now. Hopefully, it's not too loud. Let's see.
Hi. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the talk that we had planned for GDC.
Okay, so this is a GDC.
But we do have
Nico, you were right.
Some super exciting news about PS5. And who better to bring that to you than the one and only Mark Cerny. Without further ado, over to you, Mark.
Thank you, Jim. There will be lots of chances later on this year to look at the PlayStation 5 games. Today, I want to talk a bit about our goals for the PlayStation 5 hardware and how they influenced the development of the console.
Okay.
I think you all know I'm a big believer in console generations. Once every 5 or 6 or 7 years,
no, they're cutouts,
a
Onyx.
console arrives with substantially new capabilities. There's
I haven't
a lot
played
of learning by the
Resident
game
Evil 3
developers,
spin.
hopefully not too overwhelming, and soon there's games that could never have been created before. Now, it used to be that as a console designer, you'd somehow intuit what would be the best set of capabilities for the new console, and then build it in complete secrecy. For the PlayStation consoles, that period lasted through PlayStation 3, a powerful and groundbreaking console, but also one that caused quite a lot of heartache, as it was initially difficult to develop games for. So, starting with PlayStation 4, we've taken a different approach, roughly centered around 3 principles.
Listening to developers, balancing.
The first of these is listening to the developers, which is to say that a lot of what we put into a console derives directly from the needs and aspirations of the game creators.
Which is good.
We definitely do have some ideas of our own, but at the core of our philosophy for designing consoles is that game players are here for the fantastic games. Which is to say that game creators matter. Anything we can do to make life easier for the game creators or help them realize their dreams, we will do. So about once every 2 years, I take a tour of the industry. I go to the various developers and publishers, sit down, and discuss how they're doing with the current consoles.
I should have had a coffee
and what
before
they'd like to
this.
see in future consoles. This requires weeks on the road, as reaching the bulk of the game creators involves talking to well over 100 people at something like 24 publishers and
Onyx, as long as it's less than 10 people, it's okay.
Valuable. By the way, the feature most requested by the developers, that was an SSD, which we were very happy to put in the hardware, but a lot of problem solving was required. I'll be doing a deep dive on the SSD and surrounding systems later on in this talk. It's also key to make a generational leap while keeping the console sufficiently familiar to game developers. I think about this in terms of balancing evolution and revolution. Now, with PlayStation 1, 2, and 3, the target was a revolution each time with a brand new feature set. That was great in many ways, but time for the developers to get up and running got longer with each console.
Nico, don't do that.
I've called this time to triangle. Here's what I had for
Nico,
those
if he does that.
To be clear, I'm not talking about time to make a game. Developers will be ambitious, and it may take them 6 years or so to realize their vision. What I'm talking about is that dead time before graphics and other aspects of game development
The solid
running,
snake
and
drive.
trying to minimize that. On the other hand, if we're trying to reduce that dead time to zero,
MGS6 confirmed,
that means
Onyx.
the hardware architecture can't change at all. We're handcuffed. We need to judge for each feature what value it adds and whether it's worth the increase in developer time needed to support it. So with PlayStation 4, we were able to strike a pretty good balance between performance and familiarity. We got required learning back to PlayStation 1 levels. With PS5, the GPU was definitely the area we felt the most tension between adding new features and keeping a familiar programming model.
Okay.
Ultimately, I think we've ended up with something under a month of getting up to speed. That feels like we're striking about the right balance. I'll go into a bit more detail later today about our philosophy with the GPU and the specific feature set that resulted from it.
Spooky
It's
skeleton
also
drive.
very important for us, as the hardware team, to find new dreams, by which I mean something other than CPU performance, GPU performance, and the amount of RAM. The increase in graphics performance over the past 2 decades has been astonishing.
Nico.
But there are other areas in which we can innovate and provide significant value to game creators and through them, the players. That's why the SSD was very much on our list of directions to explore, regardless of what came out of the conversations with game developers.
Chat
and
is on
publishers.
fire, guys.
The biggest feature in this category is
Super
the
Saiyan
custom
drive.
engine for audio. That's today's final topic. The push for vastly improved audio. And
Super
in
fast and
particular,
cool.
3D
Gotta go
audio
fast.
isn't something that came out of the developer meetings. It's much more the case that we had a dream of what might be possible 5 years from now, and then worked out a number of steps we could take to set us on that path. So here again are the 3 principles. The first being enabling the desires of developers to drive the hardware design. To me, the SSD really is the key to the next generation. It's a game changer. And it was the #1 ask from developers. for
Sony
PlayStation
Sonic
5.
drive. Oof.
As in, we know it's probably impossible, but can you put an SSD in it? That was a discussion we were also having internally. It was clear that the presence of a hard drive in every PlayStation 4 was having a positive impact. A lot of things that would simply have been impossible at Blu-ray disc speeds were now possible. At the same time, though, in
I don't know,
2015
Anya.
and 2016, when we were having these
This is
conversations,
clearly meant for
developers were
GDC.
already banging
So it's
up
meant
against
for
the limits of the
developers.
hardware.
So they're trying to
And
sell
a lot
this
of
to
developer
developers, I'm
time was
assuming.
being spent designing around slow load speeds. I want to focus in on
I'm just hoping we get
one number,
a little bit of news.
which is how long it takes to load a gigabyte of data from a hard drive. The difficulty being that hard drives are neither particularly fast nor flexible.
Yeah.
If all your data is in one block, which is frankly not very likely, you can load 50 to 100 megabytes a second, depending on where the data is located on the hard drive. Let's assume it's on the outer edge, which means loading a gigabyte takes 10
Yeah.
seconds.
Everybody
If you
knows
compress
SSDs
your
are
data
faster, guys.
packages, you can fit more data on the Blu-ray disc and also effectively boost your hard drive read speed by the compression ratio. We support zlib decompression on PlayStation 4.
This is what
That gets you
SSD is.
something like 50%
Oh my
of the
God.
data on the disk
Nico, you
and
called it, dude.
50% higher effective read speed. Unfortunately, though, it's highly likely that your data is scattered around in various files on the hard drive, as well as sourced from multiple locations within those files. So lots of seeks are needed at 2 to 50-ish milliseconds each. My rule of thumb is that the hard drive is spending 2/3 of its time
The
seeking,
casing of the
and
hard
only
drive is a cardboard
1/3
box.
of
It's
its
made out of
time
cardboard.
actually loading data. Putting all of that together, a
No, I
gigabyte
wouldn't
is very
expect
roughly
a
20
game reveal
seconds
here
to load
at
from a
all.
hard drive.
What I want
Now,
is information
a
about the
gigabyte
console.
is not much data.
more than anything
Games
else
are
once
using
this
5
costs
or
that.
6 gigabytes of RAM on PlayStation 4, so boot times and load times can get pretty grim. Or to put that differently, as a player,
Oh,
you
yeah.
wait for
I
the
agree,
game
Nico.
to boot, wait for the game to load, wait for the level to reload every time you die, and you wait for what is euphemistically called
No, it's
fast
not.
travel.
I agree, Onyx. It's not
All
a
of
state of
that
play.
leads to the dream. What if we could have not just an SSD, but a blindingly fast SSD? If we could load 5
Is this the patent that they were
gigabytes a second
talking
from
about
it, what would change?
a few months ago?
Now, SSDs are completely different from hard drives. They don't have seeks as such. If you have a 5 gigabyte a second SSD, you can read data from 1,000 different locations.
Yeah,
in
I doubt it as well.
Pretty much at speed.
at this
As
point.
for time to
I think they're
load
just
a
talking
gigabyte,
specs.
This is next gen we're talking about, so memory is bigger. Instead, we should
All
be asking
specs.
how long to load 2 gigabytes. And the answer is about a quarter of a second. And that's
Ooh.
amazing. We're
They're
talking
amazing,
two
guys.
orders of magnitude, meaning
SSDs
very
are faster than
roughly
HDDs.
100 times faster. Which means
Surprise.
at 5 gigabytes a second for the SSD, the potential is that the game boots in a second. There are no load screens. The game just fades down while loading a half dozen gigabytes and fades back up again. Same for a reload. You're immediately back in the action after you die. And fast travel becomes so fast, it's blink and you miss it. As game creators, we go from trying to distract the player from how long
What's up,
fast
dude?
travel is taking, like those Spider-Man subway rides, to being so blindingly fast that we might even have to slow that transition down. Pretty cool, right? But for me, this is not the primary reason to change from a hard drive to an SSD. The primary reason
they're
for an
GIFs, for sure.
ultra-fast SSD is that it gives the game designer freedom.
Okay.
Or to put that differently, with a hard drive, the 20 seconds that it takes to load a gigabyte can sabotage the game that the developer is trying to create.
Bloodborne
I
at
think
its initial
almost
release
all of
is
us
that.
in the room have experienced this, maybe in different ways. Say we're making an adventure game and we have 2 rich environments where we each want enough textures and models to fill memory, which you can do as long as you have a long staircase or elevator ride or a
Or
winding
climbing in God of
corridor
War.
where you can ditch the old assets and then take 30 seconds or so to load the new assets. Having a 30-second elevator ride is a little extreme. More realistically, we'd probably chop the world into a number of smaller pieces and then do some calculations with sight lines and run speeds like we did for Haven City. When
Onyx, I know you really enjoyed
The
climbing.
game is 20 years old, but not much has changed since then.
That's true.
All those twisty passages are there for a reason. There's a whole subset of level design dedicated to this sort of work, but still,
Oh, yeah,
it's
Popoku
a
Trash.
giant
That's-
distraction for a team that just
that's the general
wants to make
consensus.
their game. So when I
Yeah,
talked about
they're
the
not
dream of
selling,
an
but I mean,
SSD,
again,
part of
guys,
the
this is for
reason that
devs.
5 gigabyte a second target was to eliminate loads, but also part of the reason for that target was streaming. As in,
I know.
what if the SSD
Onyx,
is
we
so
should do a
fast
whole
that
video
as
dedicated
player
to
is
the
turning
loading
around, it's possible
in
to load
God of War.
textures for everything
The climbing
behind the
was your
player in
favorite
that
part.
split second. If you figure that it takes half a second to turn, that's 4 gigabytes of compressed data you can load.
That's
That
what
sounds
Horizon
about
Zero
right
Dawn did,
for next gen.
essentially,
Anyway,
in regards
back
to
the hard
loading.
drive. Another strategy
They kind of
for
had like a
increasing
cone
effective
depth
read
of
speed is
field
to make big
setup,
sequential
so anything
chunks
that was
of
outside of
data.
the cone of
For
view
example,
didn't
we
load,
might group
and you
all
kind of
the
just
data
like
together
loaded
from
as
each
you were
single block.
turning the camera around.
That removes most of the seeks, and the streaming gets faster. But there's a downside too, which is that frequently used data is included in many chunks and therefore is on the hard drive
Nico, I agree with you.
many times. Marvel's Spider-Man uses this strategy, and though it works very
Daniel,
well
you're
for
right.
increasing the
Devs
streaming
do know what SSDs are.
there's a massive duplication as a result. Some of the objects like mailboxes or news racks are on the hard drive 400
I agree,
times.
Onyx. He's very,
What I'm
very stiff.
describing here are things that cramp a creative director's style. Either level design gets a little bit boring in places, or the data is duplicated so many times that it no longer fits on the Blu-ray disc. And you end up with hard
Lucky the
limits on the
Dragon.
player's run speed or driving speed. The player can't go faster than the load speed.
Probably, you're probably right, Nico.
And finally, I'm sure many of you have noticed that after a patch download, the PlayStation 4 will sometimes take a long time to install the patch.
Yes.
That's because when just part of a file has been changed, the new data can be downloaded pretty quickly. But before the game boots up, a brand new file has to be constructed that includes the change.
Onyx, you and I
portion.
were talking about the
Otherwise,
same
every
exact
change
issue.
would add a seek or two. Even so, you can occasionally see this happening on game titles. They start to hitch once they get patched enough. With an SSD, though, no seeks. So no need to make brand new files with the changes incorporated into them, which means
There's no X
install
button.
as
I'm
you
sorry,
move the data.
Alex.
There's yet one more benefit, which is that system memory can be used much more efficiently.
That is quite true.
On PlayStation 4, game data on the hard drive feels very distant and difficult to use. By the time you realize you need a piece of data, it's much too late to go out and load it. So system memory has to contain all of the data that could be used in the next 30 seconds or so of gameplay. That means a lot of the 8 gigabytes of system memory is idle.
Okay.
It's just waiting there to be potentially used. On PlayStation 5, though,
Felipe,
the
don't be
SSD is
salty,
very
man.
close to
Fire
being
Emblem
like
characters are
more RAM.
great.
Typically,
Just
it's
play
fast
Fire
enough
Emblem
that when
Three
you
Houses.
realize you need a piece of data, you can just load it from the SSD and use it. There's no need to have lots
Same
of
here,
data
Daniel.
parked in
That's all I'm
system
here
memory
for.
waiting to potentially be
But
used.
next gen,
A
16
different
gigabytes
way
of
of
RAM,
saying that
DDR6.
is that most of RAM is working on the game's behalf.
So they
This is
mirror
one
what
of the
Xbox
reasons that
has.
16 gigabytes of GDDR6
Yeah,
feels right for
Xbox
PlayStation 5.
has
The presence
16
of the
gigabytes of
SSD reduces the need for a
GDDR6.
massive intergenerational increase in size.
Yeah.
So back to the dream of the SSD. Here's the set of targets. Boot the game in a second.
Fine.
No load screens.
That would be amazing.
Design freedom, meaning no twisty passages or long corridors. More game on the disk and more game
What's
on
up,
the
Guido?
SSD. And finally, those patch installs go away. The reality, though, is that the SSD is just one piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of places where bottlenecks can occur
there's
in
Onyx's
between the
favorite game.
SSD and the game code that uses the data. You can see this on PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
If I use an SSD with 10 times the speed of a standard hard drive, I probably see only double the loading speed, if that. For PlayStation 5, our goal was not just that the SSD itself be 100 times faster.
Dance Dance
It
Revolution
was that
6 is
game
coming
loads
back.
and streaming would be 100 times faster. So every single potential bottleneck needed to be addressed.
Shut up.
And
Are you
there
serious,
a lot of
Jack?
them.
All right, I'm
Let's
going to
look at
Twitter.
check-in and what happens when its overhead gets 100 times larger. Conceptually, check-in is a pretty simple process. Data is loaded into system memory from the hard drive or SSD. It's examined. A few
Boom.
values are tweaked to check it in, and then it's moved to its final location. At
Okay.
the SSD speeds we're talking about,
So
that
specs have
last
already been
part,
revealed.
moving the
Thank you
data,
for
meaning
that, by the
copying
way.
it from one location to another,
appreciate that
takes
Jack
roughly
purchase.
an entire next-gen CPU core. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Alex, I feel like
If
I'm
all
at
the
work.
overheads get 100 times larger, that will cripple the frame rate as soon as the player moves, and that massive stream of data starts
Okay,
coming
so,
off the SSD. So to solve all of that, we built a
PlayStation
lot of
5
custom hardware,
specs.
namely a custom flash controller,
8
and a
times
number of custom units
Zen
in
2
our
cores at
the
3.5
flash controller in
gigs.
the SSD was
So
designed
it's
for
clocked
smooth
slower than the
development-free
Xbox.
operation,
Xbox is
but also
3.8
with things in
gigahertz.
mind. For example, there are 6
GPU is
levels
set
of
to
priority in reading from the
10.28
SSD.
teraflops with
Priority
36
is very
compute
important.
units
You can
at
imagine the
2.23
player heading
gigahertz
into
at a
some
variable
new location
frequency
in the
rate.
world and the game
GPU for
requesting a
Xbox
few
is
gigabytes of
12
textures. And
teraflops,
while those
but with
textures are
52
being
compute
loaded,
units
an
at
enemy is shot and has to
1.825
speak a
gigahertz
few
using a
dying
custom
words.
RDNA
Having
2
multiple
architecture from
priority levels
AMD.
lets the audio for those dying words get
Memory
loaded
interface is 16
immediately.
gigabytes GDDR6. Memory
On one side,
bandwidth
that flash
is
controller
448
connects to
gigabytes per
actual flash
second.
dies that supply the storage.
In comparison to
reach our
Xbox,
bandwidth
16
target of
gigabytes
5 gigabytes a
GDDR6, there
second,
is
we ended
no
up with a 12-channel
bandwidth. Hold on.
interface. 8 channels
I'm gonna
wouldn't be
go into
enough.
Eurogamer.
The resulting
They had a better
bandwidth we
breakdown.
achieved is actually 5.5 gigabytes a second. With a 12-channel interface,
There
the
we go.
most natural size that emerges for an SSD is 825 gigabytes. The key question for us was, is that enough? I mean, it's
Is that
tempting
enough?
to add more, but Flash certainly doesn't come cheap, and we have a responsibility to our gaming audience to
okay.
be cost-effective with regards to what we put in the console.
Memory bandwidth is
Ultimately, we resolved this question by
huge.
looking at the play patterns of a broad
Guys,
range
the
of
memory
gamers.
bandwidth
We
of
examined
the Xbox Series
specific
X
games
is
that they were
10
playing over the
gigabytes
course of a
at
weekend or a week or a
560
month, and whether
gigabytes
that
per
set of
second,
games would fit
and then 6
properly on the
gigabytes
SSD.
at 336
We were able to
gigabytes per
establish that
second.
friction caused
The
by reinstalls
PS5,
and redownloads
it
would be
just
quite
states
low.
448
And so we
gigabytes
locked
per
in on
second.
that
Not
825
100% sure
gigabyte
what the
size,
total specs
while
are.
also
Hold on.
preparing multiple
I'm just gonna
strategies
go
so that
to your-
those who want more storage can add it. I'll go through the details in a moment.
Yep, that's
Back
literally
to the Flash
it.
controller. On the other side, it connects to our main custom chip via 4 lanes of Gen 4 PCI.
But it has an
And
NVMe slot,
inside the main custom chip is a pretty hefty unit dedicated to I/O.
which
Before we
means that
talk
it
about what
should
that
have
does,
like an
let's talk
expandable
compression
storage,
for a moment.
so you can expand your
PlayStation
storage.
4
Which
used
I mean,
Z-Lib
guys,
as
it's
compression.
the comeback of memory
We
cards
decided
essentially.
to use it again on PlayStation 5, but on my 2017 tour of developers, I learned about a new format called Kraken from Rad Game Tools. It's
Here,
like
I'm gonna put this
Z-Lib's
in
smarter
chat
cousin.
so you guys can check
Simple,
it out if you want.
Similar types of algorithms.
That's what I was talking
but
about earlier with all the
10%
specs.
better compression. Which
You
is
don't get to the
pretty
point. All
big.
it does
That
already
means
know the reasons of
10% more
SD.
game
It's
on
why
the
they all
UHD
kept
Blu-ray
trying to
disc
get
or on
PS4.
the
Yeah, I
SSD.
agree with you,
Kraken
Albert
had only
Scoot.
been out for a year, but it was already becoming a de facto industry standard. Half of the teams I talked to were either using it or getting ready to evaluate it.
It's a
So
mystery
we
science
hustled
project.
and built a custom decompressor into the I/O unit, one capable of handling over 5 gigabytes of
Yeah.
Kraken format input data a second. After
Oh,
decompression,
fully
that typically becomes 8 or 9 gigabytes. But the unit itself is capable of outputting as much as 22 gigabytes a second if the data happen to compress particularly well.
So 22
By the way,
gigabytes
in
per
terms of
second.
performance, that custom decompressor equates to 9 of our Zen 2 cores. That's what it would take to decompress the Kraken stream with a
What?
conventional CPU. There's a lot more in the custom I/O unit, including a dedicated DMA controller. The game can direct exactly where it wants to send the data coming off of the SSD. This equates to another Zen 2 core or two in terms of its copy performance. Its primary purpose is to remove check-in as a bottleneck. There's 2 dedicated I/O coprocessors and a large RAM pool. These aren't Zen 2 cores. They're
Holy
there principally
crap.
to direct the variety of custom hardware around them. One of the coprocessors is
Guys, that's
dedicated
gonna
to
be
SSD
epic.
I/O. This lets us bypass traditional file I/O and its bottlenecks when reading from the SSD. The other is responsible for memory.
I agree with you,
mapping,
Albert
which
Scoot.
I know doesn't sound like anything.
But you know how it
related
is.
to the
They
SSD,
want
but a lot
to
of
get as much out of that
developers
patent as
map
possible.
and remap memory as part of file I/O, and this too can become a bottleneck. There are coherency
Yeah.
engines to assist the coprocessors.
But I honestly,
Coherency
like,
comes up a lot in places.
anything over
Probably
$4.99,
the
and I'm
biggest
like,
coherency
I'm gonna stick to
issue is
PC
stale
gaming
data
until I see a
in the
deal.
GPU caches. Flushing all of the GPU caches whenever the SSD is read is an unattractive option. It could really hurt the GPU performance. So we've implemented a gentler
Kraken
way of
decompression
doing
is just
things,
a
where
name they came
the
up with.
coherency engines inform the GPU of the overwritten address ranges, and custom scrubbers in several dozen GPU caches.
This
to
is
pinpoint
when they said
evictions
that
of
this was a
just
deep
those
dive.
address
This is a
ranges.
deep dive.
The best thing is, as a game
100%,
developer,
because they're
when you
looking
read
into
from
how
an
the
SSD,
GPU
you don't need
architecture
to
is
know
set
any
up
of this.
and
You don't
which
even need to know that your data is
what they've
compressed.
customized within
You
it.
just indicate what data you'd like to read from your original uncompressed file and where you'd like to put it. And the
Pretty
whole
much,
process of
Onyx.
loading it happens invisibly to you and at very high speed. Back to the dream. Thanks to all of that surrounding hardware, our 5.5 gigabytes a second really should translate into something like 100 times faster I/O than PS4 and allow the dream of no load screens and super fast streaming to become a reality.
So
Having
just
said
for
that,
reference, Xbox has
expandability of
2.4
our SSD is
gigabytes
going
per
to be
second
quite
of raw
Flash is possible,
I/O
and you may
throughput,
very well
but
want to add
4.8
storage to
gigabytes per
whatever
second of
mode
compressed
console.
I/O throughput.
Now, the kind of storage you need depends on how you're going to use it. If you have an extensive PlayStation 4 library, and
Yeah,
you'd like
Albert
to
Scoot,
take advantage
that's
of
essentially what they're
backwards
doing. They're
compatibility to
reusing the
play those
GDC
games on
presentation
PlayStation
so
5,
that they can
then a
still
large external hard drive
provide
is
that to the
ideal.
developers that are
You
out there.
can leave your games on the hard drive and play them directly from there, thus
Okay.
saving the pricier SSD storage.
So you
for
don't
your
have to use
PlayStation 5
SSD, you can
titles.
use HDD
Or
if you
can
wanna go
copy
slow.
your active PlayStation 4 titles
sorry.
to the SSD. If your purpose in adding more storage is to play PlayStation 5 titles, though, ideally you would add to your SSD storage. We will be supporting certain M2 SSDs. These are internal drives that you can get on the open market
There you
and
go.
install in a bay in the PlayStation 5.
Boom.
As
You don't
for
have to buy
which ones we
proprietary.
support and when, I'll get to that in a moment. They connect through the custom I/O unit, just like our SSD does. So they can take full
Dude, that's
advantage
legit.
of the decompression, I/O coprocessors, and all the other features I was talking about.
That is
Here's
awesome.
the
I wonder what
catch,
the
though.
maximum
That
size of
commercial
support would
drive
be.
has to be
That's
at
legit.
least as fast as ours. Games that
Onyx knows
rely on the
firsthand
speed of our
recently
SSD need to work
the difference
flawlessly with
an
the
SSD,
M2
an
drive.
M.2 SSD
When I
does.
gave the Wired interview last year, I said that the PlayStation 5 SSD was faster than anything available on PC. At the time, commercial M2 drives used PCIe 3.0.
They're going
And
4.0.
4 lanes of that cap out at 3.5 gigabytes a second. In other words, no PCIe 3.0 drive can hit the required spec.
They're going 4.0.
M2 drives with PCIe 4.0.
Yes,
are now out
guys,
in the
that
market.
is
We're getting
awesome.
our in samples and seeing 4 or 5 gigabytes a second from them. By year's end, I expect there will be drives that saturate 4.0 and support 7 gigabytes a second.
Yes.
Having said that,
Yo,
we are
that is a
comparing
huge
apples
difference,
and
guys.
oranges, though, because that commercial M2
That is
drive will have
big.
its own architecture, its own flash controller, and so on. For example, the NVMe specification lays out a priority scheme for requests that the M2 drives can use. And that scheme is pretty nice, but it only has 2
Twitter's blown
true
up.
priority levels. Our drive supports 6. We can hook up a drive with only 2 priority levels, definitely, but our custom I/O unit has to arbitrate the extra priorities rather than the M2 drive's flash controller. And so the M2 drive needs a little extra speed to take care of issues arising from the different approach. That commercial drive also needs to physically fit inside of the bay we created in PlayStation 5.
Okay, that's normal.
Unlike internal hard drives, there's unfortunately no standard for the height of an M2 drive. And some M2 drives have giant heat sinks. In fact, some of them even
You're
have
probably right, Anya.
Right now, we're getting M2 drive samples and benchmarking them in various ways. When games hit beta as they get ready for the
It's
PlayStation 5
like,
launch at year-end,
as of
we'll
right
also
now,
be doing some
Felipe,
compatibility testing to
PS5's
make sure
like
that the
here,
architecture of
and
particular
Xbox is like
M2 drives
right
isn't
here.
too foreign for the games to handle.
But performance,
Once we've done that
real-world
compatibility
performance.
testing, we should be able to start letting you know which drives will physically fit and which drive samples have benchmarked appropriately high in our testing.
Okay, that's
It would
good.
be great if that happened by launch, but it's likely to be a bit past it. So please
That's good.
hold off on getting that M2 drive until you hear from us. Okay, back to our principles. Balancing evolution and revolution.
Probably right,
is the
Albert
second.
Scoot. It is
This
going to
was
be
definitely
a hell of a lot more
recurring theme
expensive.
with the GPU.
But how?
We need new GPU features and capabilities. If we only have more performance,
I wanna
it's not
wait and
really a
see,
new generation
because
of console. Of
the
course, many of these
475,
capabilities
470
result in
price
more
margin that they were
performance. That's
estimating for
part
like
of
building
why
the console
PlayStation 5
itself, that's
teraflops is
kind of
more
freaking
powerful
insane,
than
man.
PlayStation 4 teraflop. But we aren't just looking for the performance. We also need the ability to do something with the GPU that could not have been done before.
I agree, Albert Scoot. The
We
load
need
differences
higher
are going to be
performance per
small.
watt. Every time we double the performance of some GPU component,
They've been
we
holding
don't
things
want to find out
close.
we've doubled the power consumed and the heat produced. But at the same time, we have to make sure the GPU can run PS4 games, and we have to ensure that the architecture is easy for the developers to adopt. Now, backwards compatibility was handled masterfully by AMD. They treated it as a key need throughout the design process. As our solution to adding new features without blindsiding developers, we made sure that if there were new significant features, it would be optional to use them. The GPU supports ray tracing, but you don't have to use ray tracing to make
That would
your
be
game.
awesome, Onyx.
The GPU supports primitive shaders, but you can release your first game on PlayStation 5 without making any use of them. Before I get into the capabilities of the GPU, I'd like to make clear 2 points that can be quite confusing. First, we have a custom AMD GPU based on their RDNA2
I also agree, Anya.
technology. What does that mean? AMD
What
is
does RDNA2
continuously
mean?
improving and revising their tech. For RDNA2, their goals were, roughly speaking,
RDNA2
to
means that
reduce
GCN is
power
dead.
consumption by re-architecting the GPU to put data close to where it's needed, to optimize the GPU for performance, and to add a new, more advanced feature set. But that feature set is malleable, which is to say that we have our own needs for PlayStation.
They're trying to hide
and
it,
that
man.
can factor
They're
into
trying to hide
what
it,
the
Felipe.
AMD roadmap becomes. So collaboration is born. If we bring concepts to AMD that are felt to be widely useful, then they can be adopted into RDNA2 and used broadly, including in PC GPUs. If the ideas are sufficiently specific to
GIFs.
what we're trying to accomplish, like the GPU cache scrubbers I was talking about, then they end up being just for us. If you see a similar discrete GPU available as a PC card at roughly the same time as we release our console, that means our collaboration with AMD succeeded in producing technology useful in both worlds. It doesn't mean that we as Sony simply incorporated the PC part into our console.
Okay.
This continuous improvement in AMD technology means it's dangerous to rely on teraflops as an absolute indicator of performance. And CU count should be avoided as well. In the case of CPUs, we all understand this. The PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 each have 8 CPUs, but we never think that meant the capabilities and performance are equal. It's the same for CUs. For one thing, they've been getting much larger over time. Adding new features means adding lots of transistors. In fact, the transistor count for a PlayStation 5 CU is
Darren Unger.
62% larger
Long
than the
story short,
transistor count for PlayStation 4.
PS5 is slightly
Second,
faster
the
in
PlayStation
specs
5
than
GPU
Xbox
is
Series
backwards
X.
compatible with PlayStation 4.
And you
does that
are
mean?
going to be able to
One way
expand
you can
using
achieve
your
backwards
own
compatibility
M.2
is to put the
SSDs that
previous
are available
console's
right now
chipset
on the
in new
market.
console, like
They
we did
haven't
with
said
some
which ones
PlayStation
are better
3s.
yet.
But that's, of course, extremely expensive.
Hold on.
A better way is to incorporate any differences in the previous console's logic into the new console's custom chips, meaning that even as the technology evolves, the logic and feature set that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro titles rely on is still available in backwards compatibility modes.
Okay.
One advantage of this strategy is that once backwards compatibility is in the console, it's in. It's not as if a cost down will remove backwards compatibility like it did on PlayStation 3. Achieving this unification of functionality took years of efforts by AMD, as any roadmap advancement creates a potential divergence in logic.
So they're not
Running
doing...
PS4 and PS4 titles at boosted frequencies has also added complexity. The boost is truly massive this time around, and some game code just can't handle it. Testing has to be done on a title-by-title basis.
Okay.
Results are excellent, though. We recently took a look at the top 100
So-
PlayStation 4 titles as ranked by playtime, and we're expecting almost all of them to be playable.
Mark
at
Cerny's
launch
just a
on
horrible
PlayStation
presenter,
5.
Darren.
With regards to new
So that means no
features, as I said,
PS2, no
our strategy
PS3,
is
no
to try to
PS1.
break new ground, but at the same time not to require use of the new GPU
Backwards
capabilities.
compatibility only goes
For
to...
more than a decade, GPUs have
PS4.
imposed a restriction on game engines. Software
sucks.
handles vertex processing, but for the most
I
part,
wanted
dedicated
PS1, 2, and
hardware is
3. Like, I have so
responsible
many
for
freaking
the
games.
triangles and other geometry that the vertices form. That means it's not
Oh well.
possible to do even basic optimizations, such as aborting processing of a vertex if all geometry that uses it is off.
That is disappointing. I agree with you, Onyx. That kind of sucks,
PlayStation
man.
5 has a new unit called the Geometry Engine, which brings
Geometry Engine.
handling of triangles and other primitives under full programmatic control. As a game developer, you're free to
man.
ignore its existence
That
and use
sucks.
the PlayStation 5 GPU as if it were no more capable than the
I agree,
PS4
Onyx. That's
GPU.
exactly what they're going to
Or
do.
you can use this new intelligence in various ways. Simple
Nope.
usage could be performance optimization, such as
You're right.
removing backfaced or off-screen
You are right,
vertices
Albert
and
Scoot.
triangles. More complex usage involves something called primitive shaders, which allow the game to synthesize geometry on the fly as it's being rendered. It's a
Damn,
brand
man.
new capability. Using primitive shaders on PlayStation 5 will allow for a broad variety of techniques.
Darren, it's like
including
$10.
smoothly
You can buy
varying
it.
level of detail, addition of procedural detail to close-up objects, and improvements to particle effects and other visual special effects.
I don't know.
Another major new feature of our custom RDNA 2-based GPU is ray tracing, using the same strategy as AMD's upcoming PC GPUs. The CUs contain a new specialized unit called the intersection engine, which can calculate the intersection of rays with boxes.
Sorry, guys,
and
that was me.
triangles. To use the intersection engine, first you build what is called an acceleration structure. It's data in RAM that contains all of your geometry. There's a specific set of formats you can use. They're variations on the same BVH concept. Then, in your shader program, you use a new instruction that asks the intersection engine to check a ray against the BVH. While the intersection engine is processing the requested ray triangle or
I don't
ray
know,
box
Onyx.
intersections, the shaders are free to
dang.
do other work. Having said that, the ray tracing instruction is pretty memory intensive, so it's a good mix with logic-heavy code. There's of course no need to use ray tracing.
I agree,
PS4
Popo
graphics engines
trash.
will run just fine on PlayStation 5. But it presents an opportunity for those
Use of ray
interested.
tracing.
I'm thinking it'll take less than 1 million rays a second to have a big impact on audio. That should be enough for audio occlusion and some reverb calculations.
Okay.
With a bit more of the GPU invested in ray tracing, it should be possible to do some very nice global illumination. Having said that, adding ray traced shadows
Nico, they're
and
saying that this is
reflections
going to be
a traditional
8K.
graphics
I would
engine
love to
could
see how they're
easily
going to do
take
8K
hundreds of
with
millions
ray
of rays
tracing.
a second, and full ray tracing could take billions. How far can we go? I'm starting to get quite bullish. I've already seen a PlayStation 5 title that's successfully using ray tracing-based reflections in complex animated scenes with only modest costs. Another set of issues for the GPU involved size and frequency.
True, Anya.
How big do we make the GPU, and
AK
what
potato
frequency
mode.
do we run it at? This is
Darren,
a balancing
Ori's
act.
amazing.
The chip has a cost, and there's a cost for whatever we use to
Ori is
supply that
awesome.
chip with power
I
and
recommend you play it.
In general, I like running the GPU at higher frequency. Let me show you why. Here's 2 possible configurations for a GPU roughly of the level of the PlayStation 4 Pro. This is a thought experiment. Don't take these configurations too seriously.
Yeah.
If you just
Because
calculate
spec-wise,
teraflops, you
there's
get the
less
same number.
computing units
But
in
actually,
their
the
GPU
performance is
than
noticeably
Xbox Series
different
X.
because
Xbox Series
teraflops is
X
defined as
has
the
52 compute
computational
units
capability
clocked
of
at
the vector
1.825
ALU.
gigahertz.
That's just one part of the GPU.
And
There are a lot of
PlayStation
other
has
units.
36
And those
compute
other
units at
units all run faster when the
2.23
GPU
gigahertz.
frequency is higher. At 33% higher frequency,
Those are variable rates, so that's probably the boost clocks, not the idle
Processing the command buffer
base.
goes that much faster. The L2 and other caches
PS5
have
is
that much
already
higher
overclocked.
bandwidth, and so on. About the only downside is that system memory is 33%.
Yeah, it's going to be a
further away
hot
in
minute
terms
on
of
you before
cycles.
anybody
But
gets
the large
an
number of
AKTV,
benefits
like the
more
majority
than
of the mass
counterbalance that.
population.
As a friend of mine says, a rising tide lifts all boats. Also, it's easier to fully use 36 CUs in parallel than it is to fully use 48 CUs. When triangles are small, it's much harder to fill all those CUs with useful work.
By the way,
So there's a lot
I
to
call
be said
BS
for
on this.
faster, assuming you can handle the resulting power and heat
100%
issues,
BS.
which frankly, we haven't always done the
And
best
here's
job.
why.
Part of the reason for that is, historically, our processor
When it
setting
comes to
CPU and
processing
GPU frequencies has
anything
relied
in
on some
regards to
heavy-duty
work,
guesswork with regards to
it's
how much
better to
electrical
have
power games will
more
consume
cores
and how much heat will be produced as a
to
result
process
inside the
everything.
console.
It's just
Power
that's how it
consumption
is.
varies a lot from game to game.
Granted,
When I played
gaming's
God of
like
War
gaming
the
on
PS4
PC,
Pro, I know the
games
power
prefer
consumption is high just
an
by the fan noise.
individual
But
clock
power
speed to be
isn't
higher,
simply about
but
engine
whenever you're
power.
rendering
It's
work,
about the minutiae of what's
typically
being
more
displayed
cores
now.
equals better.
It's counterintuitive, but processing dense geometry typically consumes less power than processing simple geometry, which is, I suspect, why Horizon's
Yeah.
map screen, with its low triangle count,
I
makes
agree
my
with you,
PS4
Nico.
Pro
Where's
huge.
Ginger, Felipe?
Our process
Not
on
at the
previous
door.
consoles has been to try to guess what
I don't
the
know where she's at, bro.
maximum power consumption during the entire console lifetime might be, which is to say, the worst case scene in the worst case game, and prepare a cooling solution that we think will be quiet at that power level.
Mm-hmm.
If we get it right, fan noise is minimal. If we get it wrong, the console will be quite loud for the higher power games, and there's even a chance
my
that it might
PS4 right now.
overheat and shut down if we misestimate power too badly. PlayStation 5 is especially challenging because the CPU supports 256-bit native instructions that
Seriously?
consume a lot of power.
Yeah, pretty
These are
much.
great here and there, but presumably only
No,
minimally
she
used.
doesn't care about nindies.
Or are they? If
She's
we
an
plan
Xbox
for
show.
major 256-bit instruction usage, we need to set the CPU clock substantially lower or noticeably increase the size of the power supply and fan.
Actually, she only prefers PC gaming.
So, after much discussion, we decided to go with a very different direction on PlayStation 5. We built a GPU with
Yeah, I agree,
36
Nico.
CUs. Mind you, RDNA 2 CUs are large. Each has 62% more transistors than the CUs we were using on PlayStation 4. So, if we
What?
compare transistor counts, 36 RDNA 2 CUs
Really?
equates to roughly 58 PlayStation 4 CUs. It is a fairly sizable GPU. Then we went with a variable frequency strategy for PlayStation 5, which is to say we continuously run the GPU and CPU in boost mode. We supply a generous amount of electrical power and then increase the frequency of GPU and CPU until they reach the capabilities of the system's cooling solution. It's a completely different paradigm. Rather than running at constant frequency and letting power vary based on the workload, we run at essentially constant power and let the frequency vary based on the workload. We then tackled the engineering challenge of a cost-effective and high-performance cooling solution designed for that specific power level. In some ways,
Okay,
it becomes
that's
a simpler
interesting,
problem
guys.
because there are no more unknowns. There's
I've always heard
no
the
need to
opposite.
guess what power consumption the worst-case game might have. As for the details of the cooling solution, we're saving them for our teardown. I think you'll be quite happy with what the engineering team came up with. So, how fast can we run the GPU and CPU with this strategy?
And this thing was
The
supposed to be
simplest
like,
approach would be to look at the actual temperature
it's almost
of the
done,
silicon
guys.
die and throttle the frequency
it was supposed to be
on their
52
faces.
minutes
But
long.
that won't
We're
work.
at 48
It
minutes
fails
right
to
now and
create a
31 seconds
consistent
in regards
PlayStation
to
5
stream time.
experience. It
So
wouldn't do
it's almost
to
done.
run a console slower simply because it was in a hot room. So
Daniel, I'm
rather
losing
than look
faith,
at the
man. I'll be
actual
honest with you.
temperature of the silicon
I don't think they're going to
we
show
look
it.
at the
I think they're just talking
activities that the
specs.
GPU and CPU are performing and set the frequencies on that basis, which makes everything deterministic and repeatable. While we're at it, we also use AMD's Smart Shift technology and send any unused power from the CPU to the GPU so it can squeeze out a few more pixels.
That's how a
Benefits
3990X
of
can
this
run
strategy are
Crisis
quite
without a
large.
GPU.
Running a GPU at 2 gigahertz was looking like an unreachable target with the old fixed frequency strategy.
Yeah,
With this
it
new
is. It is
paradigm, we're
very,
able to run
very
way
boring,
over that.
rabbit
In
head.
fact, we have to cap the GPU frequency at 2.23 gigahertz so that we can guarantee that the
I don't know,
on-chip
man.
logic
I haven't talked to
operates
Sean in like a
properly.
hot minute, if I'm honest with you.
36 CUs at 2.23 gigahertz is 10.3 teraflops.
Yes, Onyx. He's gonna
And
be
we
like in the middle of the
expect the
presentation.
GPU
Excuse me,
to
let me get a
spend
second.
most of its time at or close to that frequency and
Okay.
performance. Similarly, running the CPU at 3 gigahertz was causing headaches with the old strategy. But now we can run it as high as 3.5 gigahertz. In fact, it spends most of its time at that frequency.
That's kind
That
of
doesn't
crazy,
mean
guys.
all games will be running at 2.23 gigahertz and 3.5 gigahertz. When that worst-case game arrives, it will run at a lower clock speed, but not too much lower. To reduce power by 10%, it only takes a couple of percent reduction in frequency, so I'd expect any downclocking to be pretty minor.
Yeah.
All things considered, the change to a variable frequency approach will show significant gains for PlayStation gamers. The final
Thank you,
of our
Alex
3
Omega.
principles
I
was about
appreciate that.
finding new dreams. It's important for us on
This
the
is a
hardware
deep
team
dive,
to
though.
find new ways to expand or deepen gaming, and that's what led us to a focus on 3D audio.
What are you talking about, Onyx?
As players,
Expanding
we
slots with just
experience the
M.2s
game
that are on
through
the market already?
visuals,
That's
through
exciting.
audio, and through the feedback we receive from the controller.
Geeking out, man.
Such as rumble or haptics. Personally, I feel a game is just dead without audio. Visuals are, of course, important, but the impact of audio is huge as well. At the same time, the audio team on a game project has to do a lot with a little.
825
For
gigabytes.
example,
What are you talking
on
about, dude?
PlayStation 4, there's fierce competition for the Jaguar CPU cores. Audio typically ends up getting just a fraction of a core. That's not much of a computational resource, particularly when you consider that the visuals run at 30 or 60
Oh, the
frames per
internal
second,
storage, yeah.
but audio
Custom
processing
825
needs to happen
gigabyte
at
SSD.
almost 200 times a
Not even 1 terabyte. I agree.
so it's been tough going making forward progress on audio with PlayStation 4, particularly when PlayStation 3 was such a beast when it came to audio. The SPUs in Cell were almost a perfect device for audio rendering.
Yeah.
Simple pipelined algorithms could really take advantage
The Cell
of
processor was
asynchronous DMA
great
and
when you
frequently
could
reached
install
100% utilization of the
Linux on it.
floating point unit. There's unfortunately nothing comparable on PlayStation 4. Probably the most dramatic progress in the
We do need
PlayStation
better
4
audio.
generation has been with virtual reality. The PSVR hardware has its own audio unit. It supports about 50 pretty decent 3D sound sources. And this provided a hint as to
I
where we
agree.
could go with audio, as well
I
as
agree,
some
Rabbit Head.
valuable experience.
It would have been a
Not
lot
to oversimplify,
more.
but here were our goals for audio on PlayStation
I don't know.
5. The first goal
When somebody says
was
that
great
it's
audio for
the road to
everyone,
PS5
not
and like a
just VR
PS5 deep
users or
dive, like
soundbar
I would
owners
have.
or
I mean, this is a
headphone
deep
users.
dive, but
That meant
I
audio had
wanted
to be part of the console.
more
Couldn't
information in
be
regards to
peripheral.
the release of the console.
The second goal was to support hundreds of sound sources. We didn't want developers to have to
Hundreds
pick
of
and
sound
choose
sources.
what sounds would get 3D effects and which wouldn't. We wanted every sound in the game to have dimensionality. And finally, we wanted to really take on the challenges of presence and locality. Now, when we say presence, we mean the feeling that you're actually there. You've entered the matrix. It's not, of course, something we thought we could
He's not
perfectly
real,
achieve.
Felipe.
The idea was that if
He's
we
just a
stopped
repeating
using just
GIF.
a rain sound and instead used lots of 3D audio sources for raindrops hitting the ground at all sorts of locations around you, then at some point your brain would take a leap and you'd begin to have this feeling of real presence inside the virtual world of the game. This has the capacity to affect your appreciation
You're in the
of
Matrix.
game, just like music in a game does. The concept of locality is simpler.
Stop it,
It's
Alex.
just your sense of
What's
where
really
the audio
entertaining
is
is the
coming
chat.
from. To the right of you, behind you.
Nico
above
said that he was going to bring up
This
some
can
jokes. He did
immerse
not
you further in the
disappoint.
game, and it can also directly enhance the gameplay. To use Dead Space as an
Kung Fu?
example, I know, old school. You're fighting enemies in fairly dark,
Dead
spooky
Space. I
locations.
want it to come back, man.
Back in the day, if you
miss
played
Dead
the game
Space.
using the TV speakers, you could tell that there was one last enemy growling and
miss
hunting you
Dead
down,
Space.
but it was difficult
Visceral
to tell
Games,
quite
rip.
where that enemy was. With headphones, you could tell that the enemy was somewhere on the right, which let you deduce, if you
Where's
couldn't
my
see it,
cat?
that it must be somewhere behind.
Should probably
onto
like
your
message my wife and be like, bring the
but
cat.
with 3D audio with good locality, the idea
game that is
you know
dead,
the
I know,
enemy
man.
is precisely there, and you turn.
I hope there's like a
and you
spiritual
take it out.
spiritual successor to that game.
So, how do we know where a sound is coming from in the first place?
So that game was.
Well, all those bumps and folds in the ear have a meaning, evolutionarily speaking.
Oh.
Based on what direction
mic
the
is,
sound
like,
coming
rubbing up
from,
on stuff.
sound waves bounce around inside the ear, there's some constructive and destructive interference, and the result is a change in volume.
Who's behind me?
The phase of the sound also shifts,
That over
depending
there?
on what path the sound
That's,
wave took to
Super
reach the
Metroid,
ear
dude.
canal. These volume changes and phase shifts are different for each direction and also vary depending on the frequency of the sound. Head size
Samus
and head
Aran.
shape also impact the sound in a similar fashion.
Alex Omega,
The way
me
that
too.
the sound changes based on direction and frequency can be encoded in a table called the head-related transfer function, or
Okay.
HRTF. Here's part of one. The vertical axis is the frequency.
Onyx,
The
are you
horizontal axis is the direction.
are you
from
liking
left
this?
to right,
Because you're
and
the audio
color
file
gives
out of the two of
degree
us.
of attenuation of the sound at that frequency. The HRTF is as unique to an individual as a fingerprint is. In fact, you're looking at mine right now. Here's how we measure an HRTF. We've taken hundreds
This is the
of
weather.
people through this process. We put a microphone in
Oh.
the subject's left and right ear canals,
Okay.
and then sit the subject down in the middle
What?
of an array of 22 speakers.
That is kind
We
of
then
crazy.
play an audio sweep from each speaker.
Onyx, this
as
is
we
what I want our
rotate
studio
the
to look
subject.
like.
In the course of 10 or 20
I want to
minutes,
have
we're able to
foam
sample the
everywhere.
HRTF at over 1,000 locations. Using an HRTF when rendering audio creates unparalleled quality, but it's computationally expensive. The simplest way to use an HRTF is to process a sound source to make it appear
The
as if
chat
it's
is
coming from
really
one
what's
of those
making it right
1,000
now.
locations we sample. Unfortunately, the processing
this is
has
great,
to be done in
but
a frequency domain
output
rather than
PCM,
time
that's
domain,
cool.
So there's multiple fast Fourier transforms needed for every sound source for every audio tick. That's a
Okay.
lot of multiplies. This computational complexity was the determining factor for our strategy. It meant we had to bite the bullet and design and build a custom hardware
You could
unit
hear the
for
spit
3D
in
audio.
COD.
Collectively, we're referring to the hardware unit and the proprietary algorithms we run on it as.
Oh, Luna passed away.
Tempest
Well, what am I
3D
saying?
audio
Your
tech.
Luna, not my
The
Luna.
meaning of 3D audio and technology should be pretty obvious here.
Keeps jittering?
As for Tempest, I feel it really reflects our goals with audio. It suggests a certain intensity of experience and
Rudy
also
and 3.
hints at your
TGI
presence
Squad.
with it. We're calling the hardware unit that we built the Tempest engine.
Oh, I'm sure the
It's based
chat on stream looks
AMD's
like poo-poo
GPU
caca.
technology. We modified a compute unit in such a way as to make it very
Hey.
close to the SPUs in PlayStation 3. Remember when I said that they were ideal for audio? So the Tempest engine
Yeah,
has
a
no
lot of
caches,
Zs.
just like an SPU. All data access is via DMA,
Nico, no.
just like
She
an SPU.
she actually came
Our
with that
target
name.
is that it would have
She
more
just didn't-
power
he just
than a
didn't change her
CPU,
name.
thanks to the parallelism that a GPU can achieve, and that it would be more efficient than
Nice
a GPU
coincidence.
thanks to the SPU-like architecture. The goal being to make
Parallelism.
possible near 100% utilization of the CU's vector units.
SPU-like architecture.
Where we ended up is a unit with roughly the same SIMD power and bandwidth as all 8 Jaguar cores in the PlayStation 4 combined.
That's
if we
cool.
were to use the same algorithms as PSVR, that's enough for something like 5,000 sound sources. But of
I
course,
mean,
we
next
want
cut
to
I
use
get,
more
that
complex
may happen,
algorithms,
Darren.
and we don't
I don't
need
know.
anything like that number of sounds. It would have been wonderful if a simpler strategy, such as using Dolby Atmos peripherals, could have achieved our goals, but we wanted 3D audio for all.
3D
not
audio
just
for all,
those with
everyone.
Licensed soundbars or the like. Also, we wanted many hundreds of sound sources, not just the 32.
Come
that
in the
Atmos
sequel to Get
supports.
Out. I like
And
it.
Finally, we wanted to be able to throw an overwhelming amount of processing power at the problem.
I
And
mean-
it wasn't clear what any peripheral might have inside of it.
Guys, like
In
sound
fact,
cards have been
with
like
the
a thing for
Tempest engine,
ages.
We've even got enough power that we can allocate some to the games, to the extent that games want to make use of convolution reverb and other algorithms that are either computationally expensive or need
5
high
cats?
bandwidth. But
Whoa.
the primary purpose of the Tempest engine remains 3D audio.
Onyx would die.
Now,
He has a tough time with
3D
one
audio
cat.
is a major academic research topic. It's safe to say that no one in the world has all of the
Chuckson, I
answers.
agree with
The set of
you.
algorithms that has to be invented, tuned, or implemented
agree with you,
to realize our
Joe.
vision for 3D audio
The
is
PS5
immense.
has a
For
speaker in it.
example, use of HRTFs in games is quite complex.
The controller has a
Before, I
touchpad
talked
that has
about
is
making
made
a
of
sound source
glass.
appear as if it's coming from one of those 1,000 HRTF sample locations. But for high-quality 3D
mean,
game audio, we have to handle
Darren,
other
I have one,
possibilities.
and it's
The
like
sound source might not be at
Sound
one of
Blaster for the
1,000
win,
HRTF sample locations. So
Felipe.
we have to blend the
Yes.
HRTF data from the
Where are the
closest
other two,
locations
Rudy?
that we have.
Other
The sound source might be moving,
two
which needs
cats?
very special handling as that blend keeps changing, and that can cause phase artifacts in the resulting audio. Or the sound source
They didn't
might
want to
have
pay for the
size to
Dolby
it, meaning
license.
it should feel as if it's coming from an area rather than a single speaker.
Oh my God,
There's
Albert
also
Scoot,
whole
that makes so much
categories of
sense.
approaches to be handled. 3D audio can be implemented using individual processing of 3D sound sources. But
Yeah,
alternatively,
there we go.
ambisonics can be used for 3D
That's one way to do it.
Ambisonics being somewhat like the spherical harmonics used in computer graphics. And finally, there's audio
Pure
devices.
evil.
The player
love
might
it.
be using headphones or TV speakers or have a higher-end surround sound setup with 6 or more speakers, all of which need different approaches. That's a lot of variations. It's nice to have
3
the
variations,
computational
that's
resources
a
of
lot.
the Tempest engine, but it's clear that achieving our ultimate goals with 3D audio is going to be a multi-year, step-by-step process.
Oh, there we go.
Having said that,
Onyx
headphone
is getting
audio
excited.
implementation
The
is
audio file's
largely
coming out.
complete At this time. It was a natural place for us to start. With headphones, we control exactly what each ear hears, and
floating
therefore the algorithmic
logo
development and implementation.
That you hang on the
are
wall
more
that says
straightforward.
PS5 and you connect it to your TV.
For TV
That'd be
speakers
legit.
and stereo speakers, we're in the process of implementing virtual surround sound. The idea being that if you're sitting in a sweet
console
spot
is
in
an
front of
eye
your TV,
implant?
then the sound can be made to feel as if it's coming from any direction, even
It's going to be like the Matrix, guys. You just
Virtual surround
plug it in
sound
and
has
boom.
a lot in common with 3D audio on headphones,
Okay.
but it's more complex because the left ear can hear the right speaker and vice
against my
versa.
house. I pretty much
We have
have.
a basic implementation of virtual surround sound up and running. We're now looking at
PS5.
increasing the size of that sweet spot.
They're bringing the
which is to
PSI
say,
back?
making the area
Legit
you need
Onyx.
to be in to feel the 3D effect larger.
I mean, I grew up
And
on a
we're also
farm. I'm
working to
fine.
boost the
I'll-
sense
I'll-
of locality.
I'll,
Headphone
you know,
audio is the current gold
Oh, wait.
standard for 3D audio on PlayStation 5.
This is- yeah.
But we're going to see what we can do to bring virtual surround sound to a similar level, after which we'll start in on setups with more speakers, such
Yeah.
as 6-channel surround sound. It's now to the point where some of the PlayStation 5 games in development are extensively using these systems. One of the game demos allows you to toggle between conventional PlayStation 4 style stereo audio and our new 3D audio. I listened with just an ordinary
I mean, I
pair
like
of
the fact that they're
over-the-ear
taking
headphones,
audio
and
seriously.
Wow, I could feel a difference. 3D audio has that dimensional feel to it. Conventional stereo audio feels smashed flat by comparison.
just uncompressed
improvement
audio is
is
nice. That's for
obvious.
sure.
So, a big advance.
Jesus Calderón.
Have
Yes,
I entered the
you're right.
Matrix? Does my brain
How
believe
about
I'm really
a
there,
round of
like I was
Gwent?
talking about earlier
That
when I
sounds
explained
phenomenal.
Our target of presence? Well, the answer is no. But you've
Slap in the
probably
base,
caught
man.
to what's missing here.
Nico, you're
namely
hilarious, man.
whose HRTF was being used. It
Default
wasn't mine.
HRTF,
It was
and this is the
default
Sony
The audio
HRTF.
team analyzed the hundreds that they measured and chose the one they felt was the closest fit
Oh,
to the
Anya, I
total
can't,
game
man.
audience. This shows
Fostering
a piece
animal
of the
rescues
default
would,
HRTF
like-
on the left and my HRTF
Uh,
on the right. You
oh,
can see that the
Onyx says,
general
if you
features are
find
much the
this
same,
boring,
but the
like our
details
video.
are different. With the default HRTF, as I said,
Oh
the
my
3D audio
God.
sounds pretty great. When I use my HRTF, though, the audio reaches a higher level of realism, which
Mm-hmm.
is to say that when using headphones and my HRTF, I
I see the
occasionally
likes
get
rolling
fooled
in.
and even
Thank
think
you.
the sound is coming from the real world when it's actually coming.
I appreciate it.
A corollary to this is that there are a few
Life,
people
what's
whose
up, man?
HRTFs are sufficiently far from the default HRTF,
Oh.
that's the red dot here, that they can toggle between PS4 style and PS5 style audio and not sense much difference.
Thanks, Alex.
I've had a few people
For every
describe
yawn
the
smash
PlayStation
that
5
like
3D audio is sounding like a bit better stereo
Nico's like,
audio.
if you don't know what he's
Presumably
even
they're
talking
the
about,
ones
hit
at
up the
very
Patreon.
edges
Or
of the spectrum,
Patterson? Oh, there we go.
which means what HRTF you're using is key. I'd like everyone to be able to experience what
Only
I'm
top 100
experiencing,
PS4
but
games.
obviously it's not possible to measure the HRTF of every PlayStation user. That means HRTF selection and synthesis are going to be big topics going forward as the Tempest technology matures.
Yeah, totally.
At PlayStation 5 launch, we'll be offering a choice of 5 HRTFs. There's a simple test
5
where you pick the one
HRTFs.
that gives you the best locality. That's just the first step, though. This is an open-ended research topic.
We got a couple of.
Maybe you'll be sending us a photo of your
Only
ear,
two-
and we'll
only
choose
fans.
a neural
Only
network
fans.
to pick the closest HRTF in our library. Maybe
For those
you'll
of
be
you that are
sending
in
us a
chat right
video
now having a
of
good
your
time,
ears
this is
in your
how
head,
chat
and we'll make a
normally is
3D
on
model of
Discord.
them and
So if you have a
synthesize the
Discord,
HRTF.
join our server, man.
Maybe you'll
The
play
link's
an
in the
audio
description
beat
below.
to
We
tune
definitely have a good
HRTF.
time over
We'll be
there.
subtly changing it as you play and home in on the HRTF that gives you the highest score, meaning that it matches you the best. This is a journey we'll all be taking together over the next few years.
You got it, Nico.
Ultimately, we're committing to enabling everyone to experience that next level of realism. Hopefully, I've been able to illustrate a bit about our design and decision-making process today.
Just a little bit.
And why PlayStation 5 has the feature set that it does.
Just a little
Now
bit.
comes the fun part. We get to see how the development community takes advantage of that feature set. I'm hoping for the completely unexpected. Will it come from audio, ray tracing,
Something.
the capabilities of the SSD, or something else? I guess we'll find out soon enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for ending this. Oh, God. That was bad. That was really bad. Is that the end of it? That looks like the end of it. Okay. All right. That was bad, guys. Like, real bad. That was pretty boring. Everybody's like, finally, in the chat. It's hilarious. Oh, my God. I am thoroughly entertained by everything that happened. Oh, God. That was a lot of information to process, but based on everything that was just discussed, like PS5 is, for all intents and purposes, going to be more powerful than the Xbox One or Xbox Series X. Definitely more powerful than the Xbox One X. I'm disappointed in the audience that walk away. Oh my God, guys, this is so bad. I don't know. I expected so much more, and I knew that it was going to be a deep dive. I don't know. I expected a little tiny bit more flair. It felt like a GDC conference, a GDC presentation. So I'm not a developer by any means. I do understand, computing stuff and whatnot, but I don't know. But the one like really big takeaway that I got from all of this is the fact that you can M.2 storage that you can buy and put in yourself. You don't have to buy a proprietary sort of system or anything like that, based on what he said. Then aside from that, there is also the fact that the way that their architecture is set up in regards to their CPU and GPU, that's freaking weird. Intuitive, just odd. But everything's pretty much going to be overclocked out of the box, which is definitely good. But I don't know. The cardboard cutouts were the MVPs of this presentation. Jeff Crowd for the win. Oh, man. I love it. Something, please come up with something. Sony begs you. Oh, man. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Right at the moment, I have one. Two. Oh, man. That's insane. Digital Foundry Xbox stuff because it whiffed. Yeah. My favorite part was the audience. Oh, man. Well, I don't know. I am definitely, like, on paper, the PS5 seems more powerful than the Xbox Series X, but there is much less compute units on the actual GPU, which is extremely interesting. So we'll see what happens. Technically, teraflops are lower, but I don't know. It's the CPU is clocked higher, actually clocked lower as well. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm not really expecting anything super crazy. You guys should put crowd gifs in your videos. Whoa there, Felipe. Chill. If they show the look at the end, everything will be fine. For me, it was pretty interesting, although I didn't understand most of it. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. For me, it was pretty interesting. Blah, 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 blah. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens. I'm not a developer, but I enjoyed the fact that they dove deep into everything that they're doing and the whole processing architecture and everything like that. I'm definitely interesting to, I don't know, see what happens. I agree, man. The Series X was revealed way better. I don't think it's smug Sony. This is a GDC presentation, Onyx. Like, I feel like it's more of like them being like, hey, here's our, stuff and whatnot, but they're not, doing that. I wish I could understand what they were talking about. Lucky the Dragon, essentially, there's less processing units that are overclocked on the PS5 in comparison to the Xbox Series X. The PS5 is I mean, I don't know. There's pros and cons to everything. The bandwidth alone is the thing that gets me excited the most, because bandwidth in regards to transferring data is what helps with loading things quickly. Like the way that computers run I don't know. I have PCIe 4.0 in my computer because I bought a motherboard from this generation. In comparison to last year's models, like there's that data cap that we saw. So I don't know, man. I'm definitely curious to see what the GPU and the CPUs are going to be capable of when it actually launches, because these are the numbers, but I want to see real world reviews. It's kind of like whenever Intel, Nvidia, AMD, whenever they go ahead and they showcase whatever it is that they want at their conferences, it can be anything. So I don't know. After that, I'll rewatch the Switch reveal video. I need to wash my eyes. Aaron, I agree with you 110%. It might come down to devs to take better advantage to power versus speed. I agree with you, Nico, 100%. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn, the way that came out and the way that it was handled with its engine is freaking gorgeous. So if Sony and its first party devs can continue doing stuff like that, I'd be down 110%. That'd be legit. But I don't know. I think we need a state of play quickly. Alex Omega, I'm right there with you. I think we do need a state of play quickly, just to kind of be like, hey, this was for the devs. This is for the actual gamers and product users. Yeah, but why? Yeah, but what Sony said, there's going to be a PS6, which means, I guess, Anya. I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. The Nindies was way more exciting. Hey, Felipe, the Nindies are always exciting. What are you talking about, man? Nindies are always great, but we do need a direct. Hopefully we get, what's today? Well, hopefully we get one next week. They'll go ahead and they'll announce something, and they'll go ahead and be like, hey, here's everything. So anyways, guys, for those of you that have not smashed that like button, do me a favor and smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to stay up to date with all our crazy shenanigans and whatnot. I'm going to go ahead and head off and actually do work. I'm working from home. Anyways, guys, yeah, I know. No Panzer Dragoon in this video. Oh, man. So anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. I will see you on the next stream. I'm probably going to keep on streaming Ori and the Will of the Wisps because it is an amazing game, and I highly recommend that you get it. If you have not played the first one, you should play the first one because it's an amazing title. And if you have Xbox Game Pass on PC, which I do, it's there. Just $1 to start, and you can play all those titles. So anyways, I will let you guys go. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, guys, deuces.